outrightly cancelled the tenure extension for party members. According to him, he said it was against the party and the Nigerian Constitution. It's on this note I say welcome to the 8th National Assembly first session from the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on this very fateful Wednesday 28th in the month of March 2018. It's quite, of course, we're very, very sure that today is a well-packaged full this morning with a meaningful and beautiful, adequate representation from the Senate, from the legislators for different constituencies and states, as they will be sitting this morning to find possible solutions and possible ways that we can cut out of this economic crisis confronting Nigeria today. There shall be presentations of reports this morning, and then there shall be consideration of reports. There shall be motions this morning, not leaving consideration and presentations of reports this morning, and there shall be consideration of a bill. Now, first, that is going to sponsor this first report is going to be Senator Obina Ogba from Ebonyi Central, where he titled it Conference Committee Report on Discrimination Against Persons with Disability Prohibition Bill 2018 SB 22. And then there shall be another report being sponsored by Distinguished Senator Abubakar Kari from Borno North on reports of Haddock Committee on Investigation of Arrest episode of Tuesday 21st November 2017 between officers of EFCC and DSS. Not leaving reports from Distinguished Senator Gilbert Naji from Enugu East. A report of the Committee on Communication, Nigerian Communications Commission NCC budget proposal for the year ending 31st December 2017. Still, he will be sponsoring another report, yes, on the report of the Committee on Communication, but there shall be diversity on this. Universal Service Provision Fund, USPF, budget proposal for the year 31st December 2017. And there shall be a report still. This is being sponsored by Senator Victor Ume from Anambra Central on the urgent need to include the Eastern rail lines in the Nigerian railway development projects. And not leaving to another motion will be sponsored by Distinguished Senator Umaru Kofi from Katsina Central on need to address recurring mass failure in West African Examination Council examination report. And there also shall be considerations of reports. And this one is coming up from Distinguished Senator Barnabas Gamade from Borno North East. A report of the Committee on Housing, Real Estate Regulation and Development Bill 2018, SB 216. And another one from Distinguished Senator Samuel Anyanwu from Imo East, a report of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions. Still, Distinguished Senator David Umaru from Niger East will have his own report too. Report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters, alleged resumption of Executive Secretary of National Human Rights Commission to the office without confirmation of the Senate. Now, today we were very, very sure that this what I just gave is just an iceberg of what we shall be expecting. There shall be more on today's, as the senators will be together in unison trying to bring about possible solutions and giving an adequate representations of their constituents. And not leaving both, there shall also be consideration of bills. And this still is going to be sponsored by Senator David Umaru from Niger East. A bill from Act to amend the Sheriff and Civil Process Act (CAP) S56 LFM 2004 and for related matters 2018, and it will be going through second reading, while the other one will be sponsored by Distinguished Senator Foster Ugbela from Bayelsa West on a bill for Act to provide for the establishment of the Federal College of Education, Technical, Aworu, Bayelsa State for other related matters connected therewith 2018, second second reading, and not leaving Distinguished Senator Ahmed Abubakar from Adamawa South on a bill for an act to establish the Federal College of Forestry, Trongo, and for other related matters 2018 SB 320, and it shall be going through second reading. Very well, and much here to be considered this morning. This is NAS Television. You can only subscribe to us via Facebook and YouTube, and all you need to do to get us on our Facebook is to type Nigerian Senate, and thereafter you click on to search. There will unfold parliamentary activities every morning. You can also visit us at our website at www.nas.gov.ng, where we'll unfold what transpires at the chamber and every plenary every morning. Well, do not go away. I just gave a synopsis of what we shall be expecting. There shall be more at this proper sitting this morning. Good morning and remain blessed.
Votes and proceedings. Votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 27th March 2018. Page 2365. Two, 366. 2367. 2368, 2369. Senator Shaba Lafiaji.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Shaba Lafiaji. I represent Sara North. I rise to move for the votes and proceedings by Tuesday, 27th March 2018 be approved, and I so move. Thank you.
Senator Rozuku, Cross River North.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Rose Oko, Cross River North. I rise to second the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 27th March 2018. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 27 March 2018 we hereby approve, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 27th March 2018 is hereby approved. Announcements. I have here two letters from Mr. President, both dated 8th of March and both received today, 28th of March. I'll take the first letter. Withdrawal of bill, request for amendment of the Fiscal Responsibility Act by the National Assembly to give effect to the proposed promissory note and bond issuance program. Dear distinguished President, I refer to the letter SA/AG SA/AG President/02/16 dated 4th of August 2017, forwarding the bill here in reference. In this regard, I hereby formally withdraw this bill. Please accept distinguished Senate President the assurances of my highest consideration. Yours sincerely, Muhammadu Buhari. Dear distinguished Senator A.B. Saraki, request for the establishment of a promissory note program and a bond issuance to settle inherited local debts and contractual obligations. Senator Malafa, please. I wish to convey the resolution of the Federal Executive Council, FEC, requesting the National Assembly to pass a bill to effect the promissory note and bond issuance program to clear the long-standing obligations inherited by this administration. The promissory note and bond issuance program has become imperative to clear these obligations, which include A, unpaid obligations to pensioners, salaries and promotional arrears to civil servants. B, obligations to petroleum marketers. C, contractors and suppliers debt. D, unpaid power bills and obligations from tariff reversal in 2014. E, export expansion grants scheme debt. F, judgment debt. G, refunds to state governments for projects undertaken on behalf of federal government. As you may be aware, Section 41(1)(a), 44(2)(b) of the Fiscal Responsibility Act (FRA) stipulates that the proceeds of borrowing by government at all tiers shall be applied solely towards capital expenditure. To provide legal backing to clear the recurrent expenditure component of the obligations, a request for amendment of the FRA was sent to the National Assembly via letter from the Presidency reference SH/AG.President 0216 dated 4th August 2017, enclosed as Annex 1. I have attached information on the subject program from the Honorable Minister of Finance for your consideration, who will also provide any additional information or clarification you may require for prompt approval of this program. While anticipating your usual cooperation, please accept, distinguished Senate President, the assurances of my highest consideration. Yours sincerely, Muhammadu Buhari. I wish to acknowledge the presence of members of the Department of Political Science and Public Administration, Babcock University, Lesha Remo, Ogun State, staff and students of Solid Base International Academy, Abuja, staff and students of Bill Clinton International Academy, New Yanya, Nasara, who are all in our gallery to observe our proceedings. I wish you a fruitful observation of the Senate proceedings. You may please sit down. Leader of the Senate. Petitions, St. Angela.
Mr. President, most distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Andrew, representing Anambra South Senatorial Zone. Mr. President, I have a petition from one of my constituents, Sunday Obaleke, against the governing board of the geographers for wrongful termination. Mr. President, may I come and lay this report?
And lay the petition. Petition referred to ethics and privileges. Report back in 2 weeks. Yes, Senator Yusuf.
Thank you, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues. I have a petition from my constituents on the intimidation, harassment and violation of the fundamental rights of 30 indigenes by 20 mechanized battalion of the Nigerian Army over claim of ownership of land in Serti Town, Gashaka local government, Taraba State.
Carry on, sorry, you can't hear.
Your Excellency, I have a petition from my constituents addressed to the Senate. The intimidation, harassment, and violation of the fundamental rights of 30 indigenes by 20 mechanized battalion of the Nigerian Army over claim of ownership of land in Serti Town, Gashaka local government area of Taraba State. May I lay, sir?
Firmly the petition. Petition is referred to ethics and privileges. Go back in 2 weeks. Yes, Senator Adula.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I have 2 petitions. One is against the Nigerian police in the FCT. It has to do with the siege on the Good News Church in Durumi, where somebody was shot and their security was shot by the police in the FCT. So this petition is against the FCT Police Command on the siege on the EPA Good News Church, Durumi 2. And then the second petition is on the unfair and unjust treatment against Madam Taraba Saleh, whose husband was the chairman of the governing council of the College of Education, Omuze. And after he left, he served them meritoriously. He died a month ago, and having served them and having left in 2015, I think either that the vehicle that he was using was given to him or it was monetized or something, but upon his death, to show you the kind of problems and trauma that widows go through, the College of Education immediately sent that they should retrieve her vehicle from her. And having gone through the trauma of losing her husband, they immediately sent for the vehicle from her. So she has written this petition, and the Equator Durumi also for this Senate to look into the matter so that justice can be done to both parties. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, come and lay the petition. Petition is referred to ethics and privileges. Brought back in 2 weeks. Any other petition? Yes, Senator Uchendu.
His Excellency, I'm Senator Andrew Uchendu. I represent Rivers State Senatorial District. Mr. President, I have 2 petitions from my constituents. Some group of 4 staff of former Petroleum petrochemicals were alleged to have been involved in the missing item. And after investigations, they were not found culpable. But later taken to court, and the court directed that they be pardoned and given a retirement. The process was initiated some 17 years ago, and it's yet to be concluded. And my constituents are pleading that the Senate intervenes to ensure that justice is met. I have another one from Brazil, who was alleged to have been sacked by an oil service company in Port Harcourt, alleging maladministration and injustice meted to him in terms of termination of appointments. Mr. President, may I have your permission to lay these petitions on the table?
Yes, come and lay the petition. All right, thank you. petitions referred to ethics and privileges brought back in 2 weeks. Yes, Leader of the Senate. Yes, point of order, Senator Line.
Mr. President, my very, very respected colleagues, Dino Melaye, Kogi West. Mr. President, I draw celestial inspiration this morning from Order 43 of the Nigerian Senate rules. By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator may make personal explanation, although there may be no question before the Senate, but no controversial matter may be brought forward, no debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statements shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate when his leave to make it is sought. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, I ask this morning, Mr. President, why do the heathens rage and the people imagine vain things? The rulers of this earth have set themselves against the Lord and his anointed. But the question, the response is this: God shall laugh at them in his sour displeasure, that is to say, in derision. Mr. President, I bring to the notice of the Senate that just yesterday, Senator Issam and Misau brought the issue of my persecution and harassment by the Nigerian police to the front burner of the Senate. Mr. President, this morning, the social media has been awash, and I have made confirmations that the two suspects in my case who said I gave them guns and money. This morning, Mr. President, there is a reported case in Lokoja that there was jailbreak at 5 a.m. this morning and the two suspects have escaped. Mr. President, we were all supposed to appear before the Lokoja High Court this morning. Lo and behold, my lawyers were in court at 9 a.m. and the case was called up, and the prosecutor, the Nigerian police, could not produce the two accused persons. Instead of producing the two accused persons, they asked the judge to issue a bench warrant for my arrest. But the judge refused to grant their prayers. And the judge said, despite the fact that I have not been served, I sent representation to the court. And the main principal accused persons are absent in court. So she cannot grant them bench warrant for my arrest. To cut a long story short, the matter has been adjourned to May the 10th. Mr. President, rumors also have it that these two people were moved last night at about 8 from the custody or their detention camp. And rumors have it that, Mr. President, that they may have been killed. Because yesterday, two international organizations were in Lokoja based on my petition to find out exactly what is happening. There was also fear that the Senate has set up a committee that will start vigorous investigation today. So, Mr. President, surprisingly, these two people are now declared as escapees. Mr. President, I want to use the opportunity and in the principle of justice to call on the Inspector General of Police that within 48 hours he must produce these two accused persons, because despite the fact that they are accused, they are presumed innocent until proven guilty. They also have right to life. So the police must, as a matter of urgency, produce these two accused persons. Failure to do so, I am going to sue the IG for intimidation, for harassment, for blackmail, for mental assault. Because Nigeria is not a banana republic. They cannot escape they must produce them either dead or alive. Then the Senate have proven that we are doing what we are doing here have resulted and resonance effect outside there. For the fear of investigation, these people have either been released or killed. Mr. President, I want to say I give glory to God that we serve a living God. And I hand this way. This kind God, oh, I never see before, oh. This kind God, oh, blessed be your holy name. Thank you.
Distinguished Senator David Milai, please, we do appreciate your sentiments and emotions, but we must please respect also this when you do make this your addresses with all due respect, as you are an elder statesman that represents the constituency. Please, we must ensure that with your point noted, I think the major issue here is that all our institutions, we must continue to ensure that we all do our best to promote this democracy. If we are making a mockery of ourselves, if these issues that are raised by you are true, and I hope that the police will come out and show that some of these things are not the case and provide the right thing for us. Point of order, Senator Bacha.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very respectable members of this hallowed chamber. My name is Senator Emmanuel Boacha, CON. I represent Taraba South. Mr. President, I'm coming under Order 43, personal explanation. I want to inform this hallowed chamber, Mr. President, that I am the senator representing retired General Theophilus Yakubu Danjuma, whose statement is in the public domain. Mr. President, I want to reduce the work of this chamber by presenting two publications. And like I said, as a senator representing him, I know every Nigerian, living or dead, knows that General Danjuma is a man of few words. I want to draw our attention to the publications on these two papers. And based on my interaction with the governor of Taraba State, who told me the effort he made to ensure that the military provided a level playing ground for those who come to murder peace in our region. The governor told me in confidence his trip even to the presidency, drawing attention to the matter raised by the general.
Senator Bacha, I have to. But you did not come on the. Yeah, but another explanation also, you must. Yeah, but you need to have done that before now, because first of all, you are aware that this came yesterday under. The matter, Mr. President, has not called for debate. The matter is to lay these papers for the public petitions to look into the matters, because there are more published in these papers. Okay. Yes. Okay, come on.
The issues raised in the papers is a fact I want to share with my colleagues, if you allow me 1 minute. Yes, the fact are that the governor had reported to the GOC that this particular officer is protecting the militias. And when 3 villages were burned, the
No. Yes, point of order, Deputy Senate President, yeah.
I come under Order 53.6.
it shall be out of order to attempt to reconsider any specific question upon which the Senate has come to a conclusion during the current session, except upon a substantive motion for the session. This matter came up yesterday. One of our distinguished colleagues raised it, and the matter was put to question. And it was laid to rest.
No, it's going to be.
No, it was defeated yesterday. It was supposed to be defeated. The Nels had it yesterday.
Mr. President, please, I need your protection, sir. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I just want to remind the Senate of what happened yesterday. Yesterday, Senator Isi Obakar Yusuf came under Order 42 to request that this Senate discusses the statements credited or attributed to General T.Y. Juma. And by your ruling, sir, the ayes had it. And it will come up today. So I will advise my colleague, friend, and brother, Senator Buacha, if there are any explanations, you can offer those explanations when the motion is debated. But I believe that the Senate has resolved to take this issue today, just like we will take the issue requested by Senator James Manager. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, this leader has come on a point of order, and the point of order I rule as sustained. We will take this matter when we take the motion, when the motion comes up for discussion. Yes, because if you remember yesterday, we had about three point motions on 42 yesterday, so it will come on at the next legislative day. We are taking the ones, so it will come at the next legislative day. Leader of the Senate, appointed by Senator Gobri.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues. Order 15, that is privilege.
Let's go ahead. Mike. Mike.
Hello? Okay. Any senator may rise at any time to speak upon a matter of privilege, suddenly arising, and he shall be prepared to move without notice a motion declaring that a contempt or breach of privilege has been committed, or referring the matter to the Committee on Ethics and Privileges. But if the matter is raised in Committee of the Whole, Senate, the chairman shall leave the chair to report the progress. Your Excellency, my attention was drawn to this publication of Vanguard of 20th March 2018, during which there was a publication about our late brother and colleague, distinguished Senator Madam Ali Wakil. During that, in fact, it was purported to have been signed by Parliamentary Support Group Senate for President Muhammad Buhari. You see, my concern here is that we should work as a team here. There shouldn't be any parliamentary whatever, or those who are supporting one person or the other. The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is the President of Nigeria. He is the President of everybody in this country, and we are supporting the President 100%. So I don't think there is any need for any group or clan to carve themselves out and put themselves and call themselves Parliamentary Support Group for the President. I think we are all supporting the President. We are all members of the Senate, and we are responsible people. So I think
I am not happy with this. There is need for people to understand that.
Mr. Mandy, the report. No, we need to. Usually one of our colleagues has come up with an observation on the issue of what was in the newspaper publication. And if there are any proposals, I think the normal procedure for us to refer this to ethics to look into it and then come back to us. I refer matter is ethics and privileges. Go back. We'll just wait for the report to come back, then you can make your contributions. Leader of the Senate. Yeah, point of order entire time.
Thank you, Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues. My name is Senator Atai Aiduko Ali. I present Promissory. Mr. President, I come under Order 43, personal explanation. By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator may make personal explanation, although there may be no question before the Senate, but no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate when the leave to make it is sought. Mr. President, I want to draw the attention of this Senate to a circular being released to MDAs that the 2017 budget funds will be moved up by 31st of March. Mr. President, this circular to agencies is causing panic in the system, it's causing panic in the country. Mr. President may note that the 2017 Appropriations Act, which was signed by Mr. President in May last year, clearly states in section 11 of the explanatory of the Appropriations Act, section 11, it says that in line with the provisions of section 318 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, this act shall run for 12 months starting from the date it is accepted into law, notwithstanding the provisions of section 1 of this act. Mr. President, by this provision, it means that the budget cycle of 2017 should run from May to the end of May. Now, Mr. President, there's a circular that money should be moved up on 31st March. The danger about this is that some agencies, some NDAs, especially, I give a particular example like SDG, just got money for special projects only last week. Some contracts have not even been awarded. So, Mr. President, how can they award contracts and these contracts, the money utilized before the end of 31st of March? So, Mr. President, I'm bringing this to the attention of this Senate so that this Senate will resolve to direct the agency, the Ministry of Finance, to rescind this circular and let the budget work according to the Appropriations Act, which ends in 31st of May, where the President has signed this in compliance with the Appropriations Act. So, Mr. President, I urge the Senate to take a decision to direct that whatever circular that is being issued should be withdrawn and let the budget take its 12th cycle. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, on personal explanation. So we cannot debate on it. But I think it's a very straightforward matter. The Minister of Finance hasn't got the powers to say that the accounts should close by March. It's 12 months and it goes to May. So that definitely, the Chairman of Appropriation is not here, Chairman of Finance, both of you are here, and to communicate straight to the Minister of Finance and all agencies that the budget was passed to run 12 months and it must run 12 months. the issue of mopping up end of March is not acceptable, and it's totally against the Appropriation Act, and they should comply and abide by the Appropriation Act. Yes, Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on Primary Health Care and Communicable Disease on the National Center for Disease Control Prevention, Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Mao Obuabunwa, Chairman of the Committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Yes, Senator Mao will have one.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, my name is Senator Mao Obuabunwa, representing the people of Abia North. Mr. President, I move that the Senate receive the report of the Committee on Primary Health on the National Center for Disease Control Prevention Establishment, Bill 2018 SB 256. I move, Mr. President.
Senator John Eno.
Mr. President, my name is John Owameno, Cross River Central. I second the motion that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Health on the National Center for Disease Control, Prevention, Establishment, etc. Bill 2018. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Health on the National Center for Disease Control, Prevention, Establishment, etc. Bill 2018 SB 256. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Mao, come and lead the report. Of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on Defense on the influx of refugees from the Republic of Cameroon to some border communities in Cross River State. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Abubakar Kyari, Chairman of the Committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator Abubakar Kyari.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Abubakar Kyari, Senator representing Borno North. I move that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Defense on the motion in respect of the influx of refugees from the Republic of Cameroon to some border communities in Cross River State and its attendant security fallout. I so move.
Senator Bassi Apan. Albert Bassi Apan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to second the motion ably moved by distinguished Senator Abakari. I so second, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive the report on the Committee on Defense on the motion in respect of the influx of refugees from the Republic of Cameroon to some border communities in Cross River State as an attendant security fallout. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Abukari, come and lay the report. of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of the report of the ad hoc committee on the investigation of arrest episodes of Tuesday, the 21st of November 2017 between officers of the EFCC, NIA, and the DSS. Mr. President, you may wish to invite very distinguished Senator Francis Alimekena, the Deputy Whip and the Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator Francis Alimekena.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Francis Alimekena, representing the good people of Edo North. Mr. President, I rise to move that the Senate do receive the report of the ad hoc committee on investigation of arrest episode of Tuesday, 21st November 2017 among officers of Economic and Financial Crime Commission, Nigeria Intelligence Agency, and Directorate of State Security Service DSS. I so move.
Senator Raju Asaki.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Fatima Raju Asaki, representing the Ekiti Central. I hereby support that the Senate receive the report of the ad hoc committee on investigation of arrest episode of Tuesday, 21st November 2017 between officers of Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Nigeria Intelligence Agency, and Directorate of State Security Service. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Francis Alimekena, come and lay your report. Of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on Communications on the Nigerian Communications Commission Budget 2 proposal for the year ending 31st December 2017. Mr. President, we wish to invite Senator Gilbert Naji, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator Gilbert Naji.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Gilbert Naji, representing Enugu East. Mr. President, I move that the Senate will receive the report of Committee on Communication on the Nigerian Communication Commission NCC budget proposal for the year ending December 2017. I so move, Mr. President.
Mr. President, most distinguished colleagues, I rise to second that the Senate will receive the report of the Committee on Communication on the Nigerian Communication Commission NCC budget proposal for the year ending 31st December 2017. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Naji, come and lay the report.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on Communications on the Universal Service Provision Fund budget proposal for the year ending 31st December 2017. Mr. President, once more you may wish to invite Senator Gilbert Naji, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator Gilbert Naji.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Gilbert Naji, Enugu East. Mr. President, I rise to move that the Senate will receive the report of Committee on Communications on the Universal Service Provision for USPF budget proposal for the year 31st December 2017. I so move.
Senator David Moro.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is David Umaru. I represent Niger East Senatorial District. I rise to support the motion ably moved by Senator Gilbert Naji that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Communication on the Universal Service Provision Fund budget proposal for the year 31st December 2017. I so support it.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Gilbert Naji, come and lay your report. Of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator Victor Ume on the urgent need to include the Eastern Rail Lines in the Nigeria Railway Development Project. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Victor Ume to move the motion.
Senator Ume.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I am Senator Victor Ume, representing Anambra Central Senatorial District. I rise to move this very important motion on the urgent need to include the Eastern Rail Lines in the Nigerian Railway Development Project. The Senate notes that inclusiveness is the essence of governance in a democracy, which is further buttressed by the provisions of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, which categorically states in Section 15, subsections 3A and 4, that for the purpose of promoting national integration, it shall be the duty of the state to provide adequate facilities for and encourage free mobility of people, goods and services throughout the Federation. That state shall foster a feeling of belonging and of involvement among the various people of the Federation to the end that loyalties to the nation shall override sectional loyalties. The Senate notes that the Eastern Narrow Rail Lines of the Nigerian Railways, originating from Port Harcourt, going through the southeast to the northern parts of Nigeria, particularly to the northeast, are now in a deplorable condition, notwithstanding the federal government's rekindled determination to resuscitate the nation's rail transport system. The Senate notes further that presently the Eastern Rail Lines are not in use and trains no longer ply these routes in moving people and goods in and out of the old Eastern region, leading to decline in economic activities. The Senate observes that the deplorable condition of the Eastern Rail Lines of the Nigerian Railways has increased the cost of transportation, commodities, and job creation in Nigeria, bearing in mind that modern rail transport system is one of the fastest, safest, and easiest means of transporting people and commodities from one destination to another, as well as offering employment to many of the citizens of the country. The Senate further observes that in the past, livestock and other farm produce were transported easily from the northern parts of Nigeria to the eastern parts by train. With the closure of the Eastern Rail Lines now, the cost of transporting people, goods and services by road has risen astronomically. Worried that in the process of developing a modern rail transport system that will enhance economic growth and development of Nigeria, the federal government's current railways modernization project has included the Eastern Rail Lines. Further worried by the non-inclusion of the Eastern Rail Lines, which connects the eastern parts of the country to the northern parts of the country in the 2018 budget proposal and recent approved $6.8 billion foreign loan dedicated to this program. Convinced that the people of the southeast and south-south of Nigeria will continue to feel neglected if the Eastern Rail Lines, outdated narrow gauge rails, are not converted to standard gauge rails. Further convinced that the Senate's intervention in reviving the Eastern Railways will foster sustainable socio-economic relationship
with the people of the southeast, south, and other parts of Nigeria and promote national integration, ultimately boost the Nigerian economy and give a sense of belonging to users of the Eastern Rail Lines. The Senate accordingly resolves to call on the federal government to restore services on the Eastern Rail Lines, which is currently out of use. 2, the Senate resolves to call on the federal government to include the Eastern Rail Lines in its ongoing railway standardization program and reflect them in 2018 appropriation bill for implementation, and urge the federal government to include the Eastern Rail Lines of the Nigerian Railways as one of the beneficiaries of the $6.8 billion loan approved towards the standardization and modernization of the Nigerian railways. Finally, I call on my distinguished colleagues and this distinguished Senate to support this motion for equity and fairness. I so move, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. My highly respected colleagues, James Ebiowo, Manager, CON, I represent Delta South. Mr. President, for the avoidance of doubt, this particular motion came up for discussion only a few months ago. At the time it came up for discussion, the versatile, erudite Senator Victor Ume was here to be one of us. That particular seat was vacant. And therefore, on this occasion, this is to welcome him to the Senate proper, because this is the first time he's moving the motion. And for that purpose, we'll give you the benefit of doubt, but because it was Senator Abaribe, indeed the chairman of the Southeast Caucus of the Senate here, who came up with this motion. The motion that was discussed exhaustively is almost on all four with what you have brought. The prayers are almost the same, except perhaps the number 3. But all put together, Mr. President, my respected colleagues, because we have concluded on this before. And since we have concluded on this, this is just to say, Senator Victor Ume, you are welcome. I support this motion, no doubt about it, and I second the motion. But be informed that this motion has come up on the floor of this Senate, and the entire Senate supported this particular move. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, I hereby second the motion. God bless you.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I stand to support this very important motion. And I want to re-echo what the elder of the Senate said, that this issue was discussed in this chamber last year. But this issue was also discussed at a slightly higher level. I recall that in a joint leadership meeting between the leadership of the National Assembly, both chambers, and Vice President, I can't remember whether at that time he was an acting president, the issue of the Eastern rail lines was raised. Those of us from that part made it an issue that, like all other parts of Nigeria, the federal government should also borrow money, fund the development of that rail line from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri. The DSP, of course, was the champion, and all of us, including the Speaker, we made a case. Last 2 weeks or so, I read
in the papers, the president said the federal government would borrow some money for the development of the Eastern Rail Line. So this motion, I think, if anything, is an opportunity for us to call on the federal government to expedite action so that the Eastern Rail Line is developed just like all other rail lines that run through the country. I believe that this is one project that when we take a loan will be appreciated by everyone, because this is going for capital development, and this is what we lack in Nigeria. For so many years there was neglect for those kind of capital projects to be developed. Now if we have to borrow, so be it, for the development of our country. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Yeah, Deputy Senate President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues, I'd like to thank the Senate leader for also disclosing the fact that all of us have been on this issue, including Senator Goje and the rest of our colleagues from the Northeast, those from the North Central, from the Southeast and South-South. This issue, Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues, it's all about fairness, it's about equity, it's about justice, it's about even development of our country. The truth is that if we try to develop the country in a manner that some people feel cheated or feel that they are not getting enough of the amenities, then that will continue to raise tension, it will continue to raise agitation, because a man that's unjustly treated will be unlikely to be interested in peace. So this issue of the Eastern Railway Corridor has been on the card for over 3 years now. But what we hear are promises upon promises. Yes, I read in the papers, the Honorable Minister for Transport said that the federal government, that this ministry has secured the approval of the president to borrow money to deal with that line. But we're aware that there's no way they can borrow money within the approval of this parliament. And as I speak today, there is no request for loan to deal with that part of the country. So this bill, this motion, I believe is also timely. It is a reminder, as one of our colleagues have said. There's a Ghana adage: if you pour honey into a bottle that already contains honey, you may not change the taste, but of course they are going to increase the volume. So it is important as parliamentarians that we continue to bring this thing in the front burner so that Nigerians will know that there is need for us to be equitable in the distribution of amenities. There are a lot of farmers in the northeast who want, and especially in the middle belt, who also want their goods to be transported to the south. There are people from the south who are travelers, who are businessmen, traders, who also want to go to the north. And there are so many of them on that corridor. So what we are saying is that not only that we provide for that corridor, but we must provide a standard gauge. The last government, what they wanted to do was the regular gauge, the standard, the narrow gauge. That is the only thing that is in the present government, which the government has. That's the only program they have for that corridor. It is that gauge that they have in their program. So what we are saying is that the government must also extend to the Eastern Corridor the prospect of a standard gauge. So I support this motion, and I believe that we should take it seriously.
Senator Aliu.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, I rise to contribute to this very important debate. It is true that the federal government had already given approval to source for loan up to about $15 billion to modernize and rehabilitate the Eastern rail line from Port Harcourt, Enugu, and out to Maiduguri. Mr. President, sourcing for a loan is a process. It doesn't start today. You have to go and negotiate with the creditors, the interest rate, and thereafter, after you complete this, then you send it to the National Assembly for approval. No loan will be given without the approval of the National Assembly. That is what our Constitution and also our law says. Mr. President, the Eastern Rail Line is very important to the development of this country, and I fully support this motion because of equity and justice. We have already started developing the Lagos, Ibadan, Kaduna, Kano Rail Line, but unfortunately, it didn't branch to Zamfara, to Sokoto and Kebbi. And we have already seen the Minister of Transport and asked him to include us in the current railway modernization and rehabilitation, because every part of the country should be connected with rail line. If we do this, it will go a long way in providing succor for people that transport goods and services to various parts of the country. It will also make our roads to stay longer. The lifespan of our roads will also stay longer, because right now, even if you rehabilitate road, because of the haulage of heavy equipment, within 2 years it will go bad. And that's why most of the roads in the country are bad, because we are transporting heavy haulage, heavy equipment to various parts of the country. This motion is very timely, and I urge all my colleagues to support it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Does anybody really feel strongly to speak again? Senator Otazi, then I'll let Senator Shafa tell us where we are on the project itself. Senator Otazi.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Senator Chukwuka Otazi. I represent the good people of Enugu North and the 12 districts of Enugu State. I want to lend my support to this very, very important bill moved by my friend and brother to Enugu and connect us with Lagos. It's not done. And the consequence that the Southeasterners are using trucks all the time going to Lagos to get their goods and services to the Southeast. And the people of the people in the Southwest there are complaining that all the roads they build every time are spoiling. And the only answer is to put the rail line. The people who are doing the business don't have the rail line. And you are connecting the people who are not doing the business with the rail lines. We are the major people who should use the rail lines. And yes, that is the truth. That is just the truth I'm telling you. So I'm begging, I'm saying that this thing is very, very important. Everything we are going to do to ensure that the loan, that we take a loan facility to include those of us in South will be done. If you don't do it, we feel that we are not part and parcel of what is going on here. We feel that we are not, and anything you want to exclude us, we are not into politics, we are into business, and you don't even allow us to do our business. It will make a...
Senator Shafa.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, the Senate President, Senator Shafa, representing Lagos Senatorial District. And at the same time, the Chairman of Senate Land Transport Committee. Let me join my other colleagues who spoke earlier in emphasizing the importance of the project covering the eastern states. When Senator Abaribe brought this matter up the other time, we thrashed it thoroughly. And it was resolved that we must move forward by including the Eastern Rail Line in whatever project that we are going to bring. However, if you remember that the year previous, in the 2017 budget, the issue of Lagos-Calabar came up. And I did reiterate then that Lagos-Calabar touched some certain parts of the eastern region. And I mentioned Obudu Ranch to Calabar, Uyo, Aba, Port Harcourt, Yenagua, Otoke, Ueli, Sapele, Benin, Agbo, Asaba, and Onitsha. The other axis in the south connects Benin with Ore to Ijebu-Ode, Shagamu, and Lagos seaports. The problem that the ministry had, that is the Minister for Transportation had, was the fact that the process of securing loans became a challenge. And all the time when we were doing our oversight, he would come up with the reasons why those projects have not started, just like Lagos Kano has seen some segments already. We could see work in progress in that axis. To now compound the issue of the eastern region, the single track that was in existence had major problems, derailment. If you remember, about August 2017, there were collision of 2 locomotives on that same axis. And when they were going through rehabilitation, it was found out that some of the cliffs and slippers of that entire line, going through about 100 kilometers, have been removed. Now, they have to source for funds to ensure that this rehabilitation is done. They are doing that as I'm talking to you. They are working on that as I'm talking to you. And let me remind you that when we came in, this 8th Senate, the first rehabilitation project that was commissioned by the Ministry of Transportation was done in the eastern part, that is Port Harcourt-Aba rail line. Even though it is single, it's a narrow gauge, but the new ones that are in the budget of 2018, because all these things have been captured in the budget of 2018, are going to be standard gauges. Permit me to even mention that the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, had directed that all major towns and cities must be connected in this rail regime that is championing. I want to assure you that the Eastern Rail project is a done deal. Let us look at 2018. My brother, Senator Ume, happens to be a member of Land Transport Committee. I have taken time to explain to him where we were last year, where we are now, and I've told him that anytime we are going on oversight, he is a very, very strong member of my committee. We will go together to see the minister who will lay everything down for us to see. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, go to the prayer. Prayer 1, call on the federal government to restore services on the eastern rail lines, which is currently out of use. Those in favor of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. Yes, and prayer 2, call on the federal government to include the eastern, yes, amendment, yes.
Thank you, Mr. President, my very distinguished colleagues, Senator Kabir Garba Marapa, representing the Zamfara Central. I want to amend prayer 2, Mr. President, to include northwestern region of Zamfara, Sokoto, and the Kebbi states. So it should include, call on the federal government to include the eastern and northwestern rail lines in the ongoing railway standardization program and reflects them in 2018 budget. Mr. President, this axis that as
amendment, you are coming as an amendment, so stick to amendment because you want to go to debate now. Any seconder? Senator Gobri. Senator Gobri.
So I hope to second that the railway line should be extended to the northwestern part of the country.
All right, those in favor of prayer towards amended, that is calling on federal government to include the eastern and northwest rail lines in its ongoing railway standardization program and reflecting in the 2018 appropriation bill for implementation. Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3, urge the federal government to include the eastern railways of the Nigerian Railway as one of the beneficiaries of the $6.8 million loan. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much, Senator Ome. Additional prayer, yes, Senator Odomaji.
Additional prayer, Mr. President. My name is Barnabas Gimade, Benue Northeast Senatorial District. Mr. President, I'd like to add an additional prayer that the Eastern Railway lines be provided with a spur from Makodi to Ukari, Jalingo, and Yola to complete the network of that system in the same manner as other corridors of the railways have had spurs to all capitals of the states in those regions.
Seconder. Yes, Senator.
Thank you. I'm Senator Dejuma. I rise to second the motion read by my brother.
The French those in favor of the additional prayer that the federal government should include the Makodi, Jalingo, Yola rail line in its ongoing railway standardization program. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator Umaru Kurufi on the need to address recurring mass failure in West African Examination Council examination results. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Umaru Kurufi to move this motion.
Senator Umaru Kurufi, Katsina Central.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Omar Ibrahim Kumpi, representing Katsina Central. Mr. President, I wish to commence by expressing my sincere appreciation for the opportunity given to me to move this motion on a very important subject matter. Mr. President, my distinguished colleague, permit me to move my motion as follows. Note that there are established recurring cases of mass failure of West African Examination Council result in the country since 2009 or thereabout, which is embarrassing to the nation and prejudicial to the interest of Nigeria secondary school children and their parents. Further note that the WAEC failure rates continue to increase each year as evidence of failure and measures taken, if any, by education will be taken. Worried that both 2009, 2010 were only 25.99% and 24.99% respectively passed with 5 grades including mathematics and English language, while the remaining others constitute 70% paid. Further worried that in 2011, May, June, were only 86,612 out of 1,540,250 candidates that participated in the examination got credits in mathematics and English. Further worries that in 2012, May, June, were only 649,159 out of 1,672,254 candidates that wrote the examination were able to get 38.81% that got 5 credits in mathematics and English accordingly. This terms that in 2013 were only 29.17% candidates actually passed the examination with English and mathematics. Alarm that in the year both in the year 2017 and the current year, which is 2018,
January to February private examination, only 26.1% and 17.16% respectively candidates have passed with 5 credits with mathematics and English. But I regret that the anticipated bright future of Nigeria may continue to be bleak if urgent action is not taken to address the recurring mess facing the education status and indeed the future of guarantee of Nigerian leaders. Accordingly, Mr. President, my distinguished colleague, we should direct the Committee on Education, that is basic and secondary, to summon the Minister of Education and Head of National Office of West African Examination Council and any relevant stakeholder connecting the problem for interactive session to identify the causes of WAEC recurring mass failure rate and recommend appropriate measures to overcome the challenge. Secondly, direct the committee to submit a comprehensive report to the Senate within 1 month. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, let us remember finally the education legacy which we have now inherited from our former leaders, that is Dr. Namundi Azukwe, Dr. Abubakar, Chief of Awolo, and Mr. Ahmed Bello Sardauna, should not be left undeserted. We should therefore try to restore, maintain, and sustain this education. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, we cannot be seen folding our arms. We cannot be seen closing our eyes. And we cannot give mood. We must take action on this very important issue. I therefore submit this to my colleagues to now continue so that we now have a resolution how to solve this problem. I so submit, Mr. President. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Barrow Jibrin. I represent Kaduna. Mr. President, this is a very, very worrisome situation. It is something that we need to stand up and deal with it frontally. It shows that there's something wrong fundamentally with our basic education system in this country, particularly the secondary school education system. This failure rate as depicted in this motion is not acceptable. Therefore, urgent steps must be taken to make sure that we find out the problems and remedy the situation. Well, all is well with the private schools, but how many parents in this country have the ability, financial power to send their children to private schools? Because the fact remains that the situation in our secondary school system, particularly government secondary school system, is so bad. And this is the result of what is happening there. So this motion is very straightforward. We need to put all hands on deck, find out the problem, and solve the problem. Because our future, the future of this country lies in our children. If we are not taking care of them, particularly at the basic education level, then something is wrong with the foundation of our society as a whole. So we need to do something, and the time to do that is now. Mr. President, I so submit.
Senator Polka.
Mr. President, Senator Polka Emmanuel is my name. I represent Bayelsa Central. Mr. President, this motion calls for great concern if we are to take our future very seriously in this country. To me, this motion goes beyond. Considering the mere failure of our children in WAEC examination. Mr. President, recall that just 2 days ago, in an NTA program, experts were discussing a similar issue. And they almost arrived at the conclusion, Mr. President, that the fault lies with our primary institutions. And that's more reason I tend to disagree with my colleague who just spoke last, that the primary schools are okay. The primary schools are the main problem we are having in our educational system. And in fact, in that program, experts almost reached finality that most of our people that graduate from the primary school
can hardly read and write. Mr. President, in those days, you start with the pen, you learn how to write, and you learn how to speak, to read. But if you give a test to most of our primary school graduates, writing is a problem. And even the higher education, like the secondary school. So it is this crop of primary school graduates that graduates into the secondary school that eventually write the WAEC. Mr. President, dear colleague, you will agree with me that if you have no foundation, there is no way a house can stand. You can't build a house without a foundation. And so the basic problem lies with our primary school education and indeed the curriculum of our school system. So, Mr. President, to me, in as much as I agree to the fact that the committee should look at the reason that is leading to the mass failure of our students in the WAEC, our basic problems are there. The primary school system is almost not workable because most of the graduates cannot do what they're expected to do, and we don't expect miracle from these graduates when they reach the WAEC. And to add to that, you know, in this country we have that policy of passing every student, whether you fail or not, at a point. So when you continue passing every student, whether he fails or not, maybe a student achieves 30% of the total mark in an exam, and there is a policy stating that the teacher has to write to put that student, if you are in primary 3, or let's say you are in JS3, then that student now graduates from JS3 to SS1 to SS2 and SS3. And that student who is lacking in one aspect is expected to write WAEC. What miracle do we expect that student should pass? Mr. President, we have to take our educational system very serious. And those concerned with the policy of formulating our curriculum should sit up. If not, we have our future due. With this few contribution, Mr. President, I support this motion and then urge government to take the educational system very seriously if we should have a future. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, these are perilous times, and our future is at stake here. If the basics, which is the WAEC, the basic requirement to move ahead, is this bad, then this calls for serious concern. Mr. President, our problems are very many. It is important for us to look at the entire value chain of education, starting from the primary education to the tertiary education. We need to do a re-evaluation and see where the missing links are right now. Because in the past, Mr. President, every parent reveled in the ability of their children to do well at school. Now it is not so. Our values have changed. People now assist their children to go and do fake exams. How can that sort of child do well when there is no time for cheating? And that is where we are now. We need to do a complete evaluation of the entire educational system. True, Mr. President, it is important for us to look at teacher education. The teachers are very crucial at this point in time. They are the ones that teach us. When you have teachers who are not properly educated, cannot speak good English, cannot even write them, cannot do research, how will you expect that the children they teach will do well in their exams. Mr. President, we need to sit up because that's our future. That's our tomorrow. That's the tomorrow of this country. And we cannot allow our educational system to fall into such disrepair without taking very serious look at it and ensuring that we plug all the loopholes as soon as possible. The die is cast. We need to do something urgently. Thank you, Mr. President.
Prayers. Prayer 1, direct the Committee on Education, Basic and Secondary to summon the Honorable Minister of Education and the Head National Office of the WAEC and any relevant stakeholders connected with this problem for interactive session to identify the causes of WAEC recurring mass failure rate and recommend appropriate measures to overcome the challenge. Those in favor of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, direct the committee to submit a comprehensive report to the Senate within 1 month. Those in favor of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, let me thank Senator Kurufi for this important motion. As we discussed yesterday, we have always said that one of the greatest issues we must address is increasing value of our human resources through education and health. So an issue of this recurring failure, mass failure of WAEC is of great concern, and we must get to the bottom of it. And I would hope that the committee would swing into action and address these issues. I know that later on this month, my office is coordinating a roundtable discussion, which I would like all our colleagues to participate fully in it, so that we can also use that to address some of these areas of our education sector that needs serious reform. Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator James Manager on the landslide in Tuomo, in Burutu local government area of Delta State, and the imminent caving in the town, the need for urgent intervention. Mr. President, you recall that yesterday, Tuesday, the 27th of March 2018, the Senate by our standing order 42 sub 2 of our standing order approved that this motion be moved on the next legislative day, which is today. Accordingly, you may wish to invite Senator James Manager to move this motion.
Senator James Manager.
Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, James Manager, Delta South. Mr. President, this is a motion brought to the attention of this Senate and indeed the entire country by my humble self about what is happening in Tuomo town in Burutu local government area, Delta State of Nigeria. Whereas on the 14th of March 2018, the inhabitants of Tuomo town in Burutu local government area of Delta State were woken up by devastating and progressive landslides. Aware that this landslide has caused a near collapse of the shore protection wall built to prevent the moving waters from flooding and overtaking the community. Aware that right now many houses are at the brink of collapse or at a point of caving in due to the force of the waters. Worried that if something is not done urgently, Mr. President, the situation would degenerate to a colossal disaster. Aware that the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, and the Federal Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs are the relevant bodies to bring succor to the people in this regard. Accordingly, Senate resolves as follows. 1. Mandate the Committee on Niger Delta to visit and inspect Tuomo town and report on the content of the motion within 7 days. 2. Urge the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to immediately take relief materials and services to the people of Tuomo town. And 3, urge the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, and the Federal Ministry of Niger Delta first to take steps to prevent the said shore protection wall from total collapse. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, when I got wind of this development, I had to be there physically to inspect things for myself on Friday, just last week Friday. And if nothing is done, ultimately, because we are talking about landslides, and the Tuomo town is an oil-bearing community, which is very important, not just to Tuomo town, not just to Delta State, but also Nigeria. Mr. President, this is something, it's about natural disaster, and very urgent steps must be taken to avert it. Mr. President, therefore, I thank you for your attention.
Senator Poker.
Mr. President, Senator Poker Emmanuel is my name, representing Bayelsa Central. Mr. President, I share the concerns of my brother, Senator Manager. As a riverine person, and the landslides, if not addressed quickly, will lead to a lot of disaster. People in that area normally suffer this fate. And I make bold to say that, just like Senator Manager mentioned, this is a community not being important to the Delta State alone. The community is equally important to the entire country because it's an oil-producing community. Mr. President, the motion is very straightforward. I join my brother in saying that the resolution is seeking from Senate be granted so that government will go into quick action to addressing this problem. I so submit, Mr. President. Thank you.
Senator Foster.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I am Foster Ogola. I represent Bayelsa West Senatorial District, and these people affected are also my people. Tuomo community is a peaceful town and economic giant in the Brutu local government and the Joe Nation. This thing that has happened, Mr. President, goes beyond just palliative relief measures. I believe the Niger Delta Development Commission, the Federal Ministry of Water Resources, and the Federal Ministry of Works should be engaged properly to design a sustainable shore control program for this community. It is only one of such communities, and some work has been done before, I think by the Niger Delta Development Commission, and it did not hold water. This colossal landslide has affected them. And so I'm urging all our colleagues to support this motion, and at the appropriate time, when the prayers are taken, I crave the indulgence of Mr. President that we should bring additional prayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Distinguished. Prayer 1. Mandate the Committee on Niger Delta to visit and inspect the Tumunu Tower and report on the content of the motion within 7 days. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. There is a prayer 2. Urge NEMA to immediately take relief material and services to the people of Tumunu Town. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Urge the Niger Delta Development Commission and Federal Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs to take steps to prevent the said shore protection wall from total collapse. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Any additional prayer? Yes, Senator Foster-Ogola. Yeah.
We are all aware of the limitation of funds or paucity of funds in the NDDC.
Prayer.
The ecological fund should be called upon to deploy a sustainable shore protection for Tuomo community.
Seconder. Senator James Manja.
Thank you, Mr. President. James Manja Delta South. I second the motion as moved by Senator Foster-Ogola. Thank you, Mr. President.
put the question.
Those in favor of the additional prayer that the ecological fund to be used to fund the said protection wall from total collapse. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very respected colleagues, the fourth order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the Conference Committee report on the Petroleum Industry and Governance Bill 2018. Distinguished senators will report that the Senate and the House passed different versions of the Petroleum Industry and Governance Bill 2018. The Conference Committee of both houses have met and harmonized the differences in accordance with Senate Standing Order H7. Mr. President, you may wish to invite very distinguished Senator Don Alasha Dura to move the motion for the Senate to receive and consider the conference report.
Senator Alasha Dura.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Tayo Alasha Dura, representing Ondo Central Senatorial District of Ondo State. I rise to move the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the Conference Committee report on the Petroleum Industry and Governance Bill 2018. I so move.
Senator Gershon Bassi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gershon Bassi, Cross River South Senatorial District. I rise to second the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the Conference Committee report on the Petroleum Industry and Governance Bill 2018. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive and consider the Conference Committee report on the Petroleum Industry and Governance Bill 2018, SB 237. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Alasha, come and lay the conference report. Senator Alasha, can you present your report?
The Senate President, distinguished colleagues, my name again is Senator Tayo Alasha Dura, representing Ondo Central Senatorial District of Ondo State. Conference Committee report on a bill for an act to provide for the governance and institutional framework for the petroleum industry and for other related matters 2018. Introduction. The Petroleum Industry Governance Bill was passed by the Senate on 25th May 2017 and in the House of Representatives on 25 January 2018. A conference committee of both chambers was constituted to resolve the differences and harmonize the bills passed. Membership. The conference committee consists of the following members: Senator Tayo Alasha Dura, Senator Kabir Marafa, Senator Abat Basi Akpan, Senator Gershon H. Basi, Senator Philip Aduda, Senator Molayaji Abubakar, and Senator Babakaka Garbe. House of Representatives: Honorable Victor Nwokolo, Honorable Wajok Edward Gang, Honorable Awal Abubakar Garba, Honorable Henry Nwawuba, Honorable Kende Odeleye, Honorable Sheriff Noor Muhammad, Honorable Johnson Oguma. Modus. The conference committee met on Tuesday, 27th March 2018, scrutinized the various clauses in the bills, identified the areas of difference, and agreed on which version of the bill to adopt in each case. The conference committee observed differences in the clauses of the bill as follows. Clause 4.6, Senate version adopted. Clause 6, Senate version numbered and adopted, renumbered and adopted. Clause 19.3, Senate version adopted. Clause 26.2e, Senate version adopted. Clause 36.1a, Senate version adopted. Clause 38F, House version adopted. Clause 43.2, Senate version adopted. Clause 47.1c, Senate version adopted. Clause 56.1b, House version adopted. Clause 65.3, Senate version adopted. Clause 95.5, Senate version adopted. Part 8, Clause 127, House version adopted. That is the title. The recommendation. The conference committee recommends for the adoption and approval of the harmonized version of the bill as follows. That the Senate do consider and approve the conference committee report on a bill for an act to provide for the governance and institutional framework for the petroleum industry and for other related matters 2018 as recommended. Conclusion. On behalf of the members of the conference committee, we wish to thank the National Assembly for the opportunity given to us to work on the bill. We so move.
Any comments before I put the question? Yes, Senator James Manja.
Not just the conference committee from the Senate, but also the entire committee that worked on this particular project. Because if you take a critical look at the areas of conflict and how they were resolved, it is very clear that they did a good job. And because they did a good job, it was not difficult for the House Conference Committee members to agree with you. Out of almost 12 areas of conflict that were resolved, about 8 or 9 were resolved in favor of the Senate. Am I correct? Yes. Thank you, Senator Omotayo Alasadora. You have done a good job with your members. To God be the glory. Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity.
Senator Foster Ogala. Yes, Senator Foster Ogala, you can hear me.
My dear President of the Senate and my distinguished colleagues, I second the motion. I was trying to move something, sir. Somebody is confusing me. Mr. President, I believe we have done a thorough job on this bill, and therefore we do not need further debate. I therefore urge you to put the question.
Thank you very much. Distinguished colleagues, I dare put the question. Those in favor that the Senate do consider and approve the conference committee report on the Petroleum Industry and Governance Bill 2018, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. I want to join others in commending the committee, not only the Senate committee and also the House committee, in being able to put together these conference report has come before us. I think one of the challenges has always been the fact that is to be able to get consensus on an issue as important as this, and I'd also lay the foundation for the other bills that are coming. And I think we have again shown to not only investors in the country and outside the country that this National Assembly is very responsible in his area to do with laws regards the petroleum sector. So I commend you for this, and I'm sure with this will hopefully get the assent of Mr. President and open a new page in the petroleum industry in Nigeria. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished and respected colleagues, the fifth order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the Conference Committee report on the discrimination against persons with disabilities Prohibition Bill 2018. Distinguished senators will recall that the Senate and the House passed different versions of the discrimination against persons with disabilities Prohibition Bill 2018. The Conference Committee of both houses have met and harmonized the differences in accordance with Senate Standing Order 87. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Kabir Marafa, who is moved the motion on behalf of Senator Obin Ogba for the Senate to receive and consider the conference report.
Senator Kabir Marafa.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, Senator Kabir Garba Marafa, representing Zamfara Central, I rise to move that this Senate receive and consider the report of the Conference Committee on a bill for an act to ensure full integration of persons with disabilities into the society and establish a national commission and invest it with the responsibilities for their education, health care, social, economic, and civil rights 2018. I so move, Mr. President.
Senator Uzoko.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Rose Oko. I come from Cross River North. I rise to second the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the Conference Committee report on the discrimination against persons with disabilities Prohibition Bill 2018, SB 22. I so move. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that we do receive and consider the conference report on the discrimination against persons with disabilities Prohibition Bill 2018, SB 22. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Kabir Marafa, please go and lay your report. Yes, Senator Kabir Marafa, go and present your report.
Thank you, Mr. President, my well-respected colleagues. Once again, Kabir Garba Marafa, representing Zamfara Central, arise to present the report of the Conference Committee on the bill for an act to ensure full integration of persons with disabilities into the society and establish a national commission and invest it with the responsibilities for their education, healthcare, social, economic, and civil rights 2018. Mr. President, following the consideration and the passage of the bill for an act to ensure full integration of persons with disabilities into the society and establish a national commission and invest it with responsibilities for their education, healthcare, social, economic, and civil rights 2016 by the Senate and the House of Representatives. The bill was passed on Tuesday, 22nd November 2016 by the Senate, while the House of Representatives passed the bill on Wednesday, 18th May 2016. With some differences, particularly the arrangement of the clauses. The two chambers of National Assembly set up a conference committee to look into these areas and reconcile the differences in the bill. The membership of the committees are as contained in the report before each and every senator. Mr. President, without wasting too much of the precious time of this hallowed chamber, I want to say that the bill consisted of 77 clauses, and out of the 75 adopted the Senate version, and only 2, item 9 and 11, considered the House of Representatives version. Mr. President, after due consideration of the bill, as passed by the two chambers, the conference committee adopted the Senate version, that is, except for clauses 9 and 11, where it adopted the House of Representatives version. In conclusion, the conference committee wishes to express its profound gratitude to the leadership of the Senate and the House of Representatives for the opportunity given to it to look into this very important bill with a view to bringing it on the floor for passage today. Mr. President, we wish to thank you most profoundly for giving us this opportunity, and I urge my colleagues to consider and approve this very important bill as it affects our disadvantaged brothers and sisters. Mr. President, I so submit. Thank you.
Any comment? I think it's a straightforward matter. So let me put the question then. Those in favor that the Senate do approve the conference committee report on the discrimination against persons with disabilities provision bill 2018. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much, Vice Chairman, and also your committee, because it was 2 weeks ago that the delegation came to see me, and I promised them that before end of March we will pass this conference report so that we can send it to the President for assent. I'm happy to report that we have kept to that promise in doing that today. I thank you for the cooperation. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the sixth order of the day is the resumption of adjourned consideration of the report of the Committee on Housing on the Real Estate Regulation and Development Bill 2018. Distinguished senators will recall that further consideration of the report at the Committee of Call was deferred at clause 14 to another legislative day on Thursday, the 15th of March 2018. Mr. President, with your permission, I wish to move that the Senate do resolve into Committee of the Whole to resume consideration of the report.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that the Senate do resolve into the Committee of the Whole to consider the report. I say second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of this motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
bring about national and the first also is
President, distinguished colleagues, I hope we've had time to go through this. Guys, we stopped at clause 14. We started at clause 15 on page 15.
Thank you.
Clause 15.
And right, you should get content. Have to take this.
My very distinct.
Those in favor that clause 15 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 16. Clause 16 is all retained. And clause 17 is all retained. Those in favor that these two clauses stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 18 on page 22. Clause 18 is to be deleted, and also clause 19, I think. Clause 18, no, not part of it. Clause 18b. Clause 18.
Mr. President, my very distinguished colleagues,
those in favor that clause 18 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 19. Those in favor that clause 19 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. That is clause 19 to be deleted. So those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 20.
Thank
yes,
you,
leader.
Mr. President.
16, the last line there, made under pursuant to this bill. I'm not a lawyer, but I think it's like something is missing. Made under pursuant to this bill. Page 17. Do I need to read all of it? Such fee as may be specified by regulations made under pursuant to this bill. It's like something is...
Mr. Chairman, there is a mistake here. The word pursuant to was added, that's why it's embroidered. Then so the word under ought to have been removed. So it's made pursuant to this bill. So the under should be deleted. On page 17, section 16.
Thank you. Well, clause 18. Sorry, we're on clause 20. Pardon? All right, okay. There's a proviso that has been deleted. Yeah. Clause 20. Take note of that. Clause 19 is not deleted, just proviso. Clause 20. Those in favor that clause 20 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 21. Those in favor that clause 21 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 22. Let the leader concentrate. Clause 22. Those in favor that clause 22 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 23. Those in favor that clause 23 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 24. Those in favor that clause 24 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 25. Those in favor that clause 25 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 26. Those in favor that clause 26 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 27. That's on page 34. Those in favor that clause 27 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 28. Those in favor that clause 28 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 29. Those in favor that clause 29 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 30. Those in favor that clause 30 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 31. Those in favor that clause 31 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 32. Those in favor of that clause 32 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 33. Those in favor that clause 33 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 34. Those in favor that clause 34 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 35. Yes, Senator Gobi.
On page 43, the tenure of office and removal of the chairman. This has been deleted. Do we have it somewhere else?
Thank you, Chairman. Let's move to another clause. Clause 35. Those in favor that clause 35 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 36. Yes, clause 35. Yes, Senator Rashad.
36(2) on page 48. Just a small correction. Is in accordance with. It cannot be in accordance to.
Secretary, take note. Any other correction, please? Clause 36. If not, those in favor that clause 36 as amended stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. As clause 37. Those in favor that clause 37 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 38. Those in favor that clause 38 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 39. Those in favor that clause 39 stands part of this bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 40. Those in favor that clause 40 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 41. Those in favor that clause 41 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 42.
That is anointed.
Yes, Senator Foster. The mic.
It should be civil service rule, the last sentence on clause 40, page 53. Okay.
Mr. President, my very
Yeah, we're still on clause 42, the interpretation.
Oh, this kind God, oh, blessed be your holy name. Thank you.
Those in favor that clause 42 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the short title clause 43 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the schedule 1 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And those in favor that the long title on page 1 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. Chairman, very distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate advance to plenary for the charge of report progress.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that the Senate reverse to plenary for the chair to report progress. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion to revert back to plenary say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate in the Committee of the Whole resumed reconsideration of the report of the Committee on Housing and on the Real Estate Regulation and Development Bill 2018 and approved as follows. Clause 15 as recommended, 16 as amended, 17 to 30 as recommended, 31 to 35 as recommended, 36 as amended, 37 to 42 as recommended. Schedule as recommended, short title as recommended, long title as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I move that the bill be now read a third time.
Mr. President, I rise to second the motion. Second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that this bill be read a third time say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish a regulatory authority to promote and regulate the real estate sector in Nigeria in order to ensure that sale, rent, or lease of plots, apartment, or building as the case may be, are carried out in transparent and protect the interest of consumer in the real estate sector and for related matters 2018 third reading.
A bill for an act to establish a regulatory authority to promote and regulate real estate sector in Nigeria in order to ensure that sale, rent, or lease of plots, apartment, or building, as the case may be, are carried out in a transparent manner and to protect the interests of consumers in the real estate sector and for related matters 2018 third reading and passed. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, having come this far, Mr. President, I move that we stand down the remaining items on the order paper to enable our committees to appear before the Senate Committee on Appropriations to defend their budgets. I so move, Mr. President.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that we suspend the other items on the order paper for the exigency of the other items for the Senate. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, colleagues are now having concluded all the items on the order paper. I hereby move that this Senate do adjourn till tomorrow, Thursday, the 29th of March 2018 at 10 a.m. prompt.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that this Senate do adjourn to Thursday, the 29th day of March, the Holy Thursday. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do adjourn to 29th of March 2018, 10 a.m. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate is here accordingly adjourned to Thursday, 29 March 2018, 10 a.m. prompt.